Dorothy Fate, 742 Hightower Way. I've been a Webster resident since the age of 6, and I've raised 4 children in this town, and I've always cared about this town's growth pattern. However, it has not been until the children were raised and I retired from a career as a probation officer that I've had the time and opportunity to more actively follow, participate, and speak up about my concerns regarding the choices Webster board members made over the years. In years past, I've had to accept that I made the best choice possible when I voted, and I had to hope that those elected were truly guardians of this town, and I needed to trust the direction that they chose for the town. Now I have the time to share my views, follow issues, and not just hope my vote elected the right board members. I challenge you now to remember that there are many residents in Webster that are in the position I was in 30+ years ago. And just because they can't squeeze one more thing into their day does not mean that they are not lamenting the loss of large parcels of wonderful undeveloped fields, woods, and meadows. I would like to share my thoughts on the use of special use permits and zoning. Specifically, the request to grant a permit to the non-conforming mini storage unit, RV storage and U-Haul retail rental business at 959 5 Mile Line Road. The town of Webster has designated that property as low-intensity commercial district, and zoning deserves to be reviewed and approved as an overall town plan. The board has on more than one occasion indicated that piecemeal zoning is not the way they wish to address any zoning issues. I would argue that the issuance of special use permits does exactly that by granting an end around current zoning. If this is an appropriate use for this property, I'd ask the board to direct the developer to apply for a change in the current zoning and not grant this permit. I would ask the board not to bend to development pressure and allow the citizens of this town to have a say in the direction this town is going by participating in the comprehensive plan process. I am willing to face the probability of higher taxes versus suffering the other negative impacts of overdevelopment. And I believe there are a significant number of Webster residents who would agree. I believe that the current zoning is appropriate. It is very close to residential properties along 5 Mile Line Road and Gatewood Lane, and those neighborhoods need to be protected from retail encroachment. This property is ecologically sensitive. Shipbuilders Creek tributaries need to be protected, and granting a commercial building and paved parking area above the recommended lot coverage with a non-permeable surface area endangers this creek. Also, the storage of recreational vehicles, as well as a fleet of rental trucks, could lead to a discharge of gas or oils or other environmentally toxic liquids into this creek's watershed. Everything comes with a cost, and protection of our environment is worth the cost, in this voter's opinion.
Thank you. Dorothy, thank you.
There you go.
Mike Holloway. And Mike, Dorothy did it in 3 minutes and 15 seconds.
Oh,
you don't get her extra. I'll tell you, you can't get her extra minute and 45.
Mike Holloway, 752 Peg Lane. I'm directly affected by this project, as numerous neighbors are. We've been down this road before with this property. Back around 2010-ish or so, Mr. Kuntz wanted to change his property to entire commercial property. There was a backroom deal done. The front portion that is commercial now, and then the rear portion that was left as R3 residential. My particular property, if you look on a plat map, I back up to Route 104, portion of my property. My backyard, the side of my house, my patio and everything else looks directly into the tree farm. By this listing that they have for this property, they're calling it a 4-story building. It's not a 4-story building, it's a 5-story building. Because you have to add mechanicals to the building. That adds additional height and makes it a 5th-story building. That makes it almost 55 feet in height. I will be looking directly at this monstrosity in my backyard, listening to trucks and forklifts going beep, 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 beep when they back up. It's a 24-hour facility in a residential area. It's surrounded on 3 sides with homes, Paddy Lane, Gaywood Lane, and 5 Mile Line Road. You're stuffing commercial monstrosities in residential areas, and when is enough enough? This is ridiculous. This isn't mini storage. You could call it what you want, but a 5-story building is not mini. I don't care how you want to sugarcoat it. It's not mini. It's big. Mr. Kuntz, no offense to him, there's history, like I said, with this property. He had a tax abatement. He paid 80% of the taxes, the rest of our residents paid 20% of his taxes for 15 years. His tax abatement was running out, and all of a sudden, the property went up to go commercial. He came to the town board and asked for it to go commercial. For years, he's been trying to sell that property. He's got a property with a flood zone area in the northeast corner of the property that is in that triangle, 5 Mile Line Road. Where's all that water going? Where's it all going to get directed to? Because I can tell you right now that Runoff Creek on 5 Mile Line Road isn't going to handle it. Okay? It's not going to handle it. There's plenty of other commercial property here in Webster that is vacant and that is for sale where it would be more conducive for this facility to go. I mean, they can literally go right across the street at Lowe's. The property's for sale over there. Big sign, for sale. Guess what? There's no houses over there. It backs up to the expressway. Why are we stuffing commercial property into residential areas? Now my price, the value of my home is going to be devalued. When you look out the back door and you see this 5-story building, the developer's going to tell you, no, it's a 4-story building. It's a 5-story building. And then the overuse of special permits for this property, you need one for the second building that's going to have to be built. You're going to need a special permit for it being over a height. And again, the definitions that you use in here, mini storage and self-storage, again, it's not mini storage. Yeah, it's self-storage, but it's a self-storage building. It's not like a 2-story building. It's just like the one that's over on 250 by the railroad tracks in a commercial district. This is an LC2 district. This wasn't designed for that. Not that size.
Remember what I said was the worst part of my job, Mike?
Yeah, I know. Time's up. Okay, don't worry. Dan will give you your info.
Thank you, Mike.
Yeah.
All right. I'm assuming the Dan that's going to give us an earful is next up, Dan Dalton.
Dan Dalton, I'm at 764 Paddy Lane. Like Mike, I've got some big huge pine trees right on the back border, so I might only see the mechanical ones. But let's just hope it doesn't get that far. First, I want to thank the board for giving at the entrance to the West Webster Hamlet, which is next week's agenda. But I really appreciate it. I've been by there for years. It's a nice one. And what you're doing is to your credit. The second thing here is Mike referred to was quite a bit of discussion 13 years ago on this property, and we had a petition signed by 60 homeowners who are within 50 yards of this property. And it was a valid petition, and those are real people who are solid Webster residents. And they count. They should count for something. And those same 60 people are going to be of the same mind today. What called my attention to this was the notice that said mini storage. I see that the town board can vote no and not refer this to the planning board. And it says right here, you can take no action, right? That was on your handout. And anyways, if you put it to a vote, you can't say they can't vote no. So that would just go back to the owner or the proposal to reconfigure it somehow. I don't think this particular project could ever fit the definitions. The reasons to deny this are, number one, you have it as a mini storage, but in the MC district code, you'll see a paragraph, it's 350-18, and I think it's number 21, page 21. And it says specifically that a self-storage that's climate controlled is in an MC district. So it appears to be a zoning issue. How is that missed? Why is a developer led along a path, and who's the one that led him? I went to the zoning office last week and they didn't know anything about it. You know, I don't know, they said to call me, but how is it that zoning would not have any idea that there's a proposal for a building that should be an MC and is an LC2? Don't know that answer. The reasons Mike said are all good. It's the visual impact is horrible. Noise and flashing lights, height is bad. The soil is most likely contaminated, and when they start shoveling that up, where is that contaminated soil going? In the year. We know that because all tree farms in the country have been using all kinds of pesticides. Otherwise, their trees would be very sparse. So I'm begging you, once it gets to planning, it's too late because these people have to put more effort and time and design work in. And the planning department might have 2 or 3 meetings, and you might have 2 or 3. It's a lot of wasted time on an issue that shouldn't even get off the start bus. So that's what I say. That's my point, and I hope you vote no. You just send it back and either find another location or find a nice project like, I think, I used to be with developers. About Outerville Office Park, there's a number of beautiful office parks around that look like they fit into residential. And that may be the answer to this. I know I talked to Mr. Kuntz once about a project like that, and he said there's not enough money. So, thanks, Dan. Thank you. That's my alarm going off to say, quick.
All right, Gail?
Yep.
My name is Gail Binder. I live at 357 Gulfview Heights. And actually, with Joshua's letter, my concerns have been somewhat mitigated. I was under the impression that tonight the board would vote on whether to grant a special use permit. So I'm very glad to see that there'll be multiple steps before that may happen. I'm not really opposed to the project. It's a commercial, it's zoned commercial, it's going to be developed commercial eventually. Maybe a mini storage, if it is mini, might be one of the lesser evils to go in there. But my problem is with special use permits. When they're special, they should require very careful consideration. And I'm very glad to see there'll be several hearings. This isn't all going to happen tonight. Special to me means rare. They're not just doled out for the asking. So the letter really helps. Thank you, Josh and Curtis, for reading it. We all remember the lettuce factory. What happened with the lettuce factory? It went directly to the planning board. It bypassed the zoning board when obviously it was not in keeping with the zoning. So when you grant a special use permit and you bypass the zoning board, send it directly to the planning board, transparency is not there. And I think transparency is important. So that's my talk for tonight. You may hear me again when you have all these special hearings. So thank you.
Thank you, Gail. Almost set up this time. Levi.
You can skip over me, I was signing on behalf of our presentation.
All right. Diana.
Can I go last? I want to be a summer receiver. Please.
What did you say? Summit?
Tie it together.
S-U-M-M, no.
You know, like.
A-D.
ADID.
Okay. Fine, yeah, that'd be fine. Bill?
I won't take a lot of your time. This book is just for reading for the most part. My name is Bill Davis. I live at 942 Gaywood Lane. And I'd like to correct some misconceptions. I think I heard somebody say there's residents all around this, to the north, east, west, and south. There are no houses to the north of this project. There are no houses to the east of this project on a 5-mile line. I think if my house is next door to this project, I am the one that would be most affected, impacted, or whatnot. I don't have a great big problem with it. I've been in Webster for 35 some odd years. Realized when I moved in that tree farm would not last forever. Held no illusions about that. In Webster, you sell your souls to get more tax money. Just wanted to say that there does appear to be a bit of issue with variances and concessions that may have to be made. Public service is not always a position of authority, but it is always one of responsibility. And that's responsibility to the code and to the townspeople. Really have no major problems with the design that I've seen laid out. They do have a proposed building B that I'd rather see the loading dock on the north side rather than on the neighbor's side. Other than that, no problem. It will be literally in my backyard. I won't be looking at it through the trees that are in my backyard. But I have no issue with this. I wish them the best of luck, and hopefully everybody can work this out to mutual satisfaction. Thank you.
Chris Whitler.
Thanks, Chris Wickham, 948 Gaywood Lane. Be directly affected by this. Building D will probably be within 100 feet of my house. I've lived in this town my whole life. My family is one of the founding families of this town. I've known the Kuntzes for my entire life and been friends with them. I was one of the people at the previous meetings 15 years ago I suggested maybe he should be able to break it off and have front end zone so that it wouldn't be affecting everyone. They wanted to open the cul-de-sac. It just wasn't gonna happen. This is primarily the same thing. This does not fit this neighborhood whatsoever. There's a giant self-storage unit that was just built behind Brewster's on Ridge Road. It's not even being built up. Why do we need another one? And the U-Haul portion of this is not just U-Haul rental trucks. I'm under the impression they're gonna have the pods, and that building D is gonna be for storage of those pods. Plus you have all the maintenance, and someone mentioned the chemicals. What happens with all the chemicals? Where does that runoff go? Into that creek. When they plow the parking lots and salt them in the wintertime, all that salt, where does that all go? Into that creek. Special use permits should be for special use. This is not special use. I agree that he should be able to develop or sell land, have something done there. But this does not fit whatsoever. It's a giant building, all the parking lot. And to just ram it and bypass everything is really ridiculous. So I'm going to, propose like someone else did the board right now, just chip this down and say, go back and find something different to put there. There's plenty of other land in this town that would be suitable for such an operation. Nothing.
Thanks, Chris. Karen Walton?
Walters, 956 Gatewood Lane. Not completely prepared tonight, but just a couple thoughts that I had. A couple things I wanted to make sure that were taken into effect. It seems like this project has gotten really big, and lighting in the neighborhood on a 50-plus foot tall building is considered light pollution. And the drainage from our backyards goes right through what's the paved area now. And I just want to make sure that there's consideration to remove that water through there. Thank you.
Denise Jack?
Denise Jackman at 27 Westover Drive. And my message tonight is, I've been watching you. And I see that you pride yourselves on proclaiming that you're a pro-green space town board. But I can't see that commitment apart from a few trophy-like small parcels of land that have not been built upon. Instead, I see almost a reckless abandon to allow land to be dominated by commercial developers for often unneeded and unwarranted businesses. It is very much wrong. And I shouldn't have to be here tonight. We shouldn't have to be here tonight. You, however, should be doing your jobs with a greater moral authority to protect and serve all residents of Webster, those with voices like mine that I believe you clearly hear tonight, and those that cannot speak for themselves, the wildlife population, who are consistently marginalized, if not completely disregarded, by this board's decision-making 95% of the time in favor of making more money and greed. Resulting from this greed, animals, the silent residents of Webster, are often left without a viable habitat. Once having destroyed their habitat, as this parcel of land up for discussion is known to have wildlife, by allowing or having destroyed their habitat by endless development, you leave them to walk around an existing neighborhood or troll around a parking lot. These are not habitats. You dream of endless economic growth, even in the case of choosing to open this precious parcel of wooded land for yet another storage unit. If this unnecessary addition to Webster is allowed to go through, this will make 3 such businesses within a 2-mile radius. The one behind Brewster's, I bet the paint is not even dry yet, because I live over there. You also have one on North Avenue, as well as the U-Haul truck business, whatever that is. And I would say, how dare you? How dare you continue to champion yourselves as caring for open space preservation when the true evidence of such a claim is nowhere in sight? You as elected officials representing all residents of Webster have a duty and a moral obligation to understand the urgency of an ongoing shrinking habitat dilemma for most of our beautiful wildlife population. Again, I say, you posture yourselves as being on the front lines of protecting open space and thereby protecting animals, yet the politics on display consistently from this board say just the opposite. You keep failing to act on any behalf other than augmenting more money-making opportunities and greed. You are failing this town, but the eyes of Webster residents are upon you. Many of us meet in coffee shops while we're out taking a walk at the post office, and we all lament the same tale, total overdevelopment of Webster. But make no mistake, you are being watched closely. So by me and countless others, and the collapse of these ecosystems and the loss of animal habitats, it's on your watch. But I say, in closing, shame on you. Shame on you if you can't find a way to properly oversee and protect all Webster residents, those with a voice and those without.
And that is what makes our democracy ripple loud. I think it's fantastic that you can get up and speak your mind. We live in the greatest country in the world. Ken Corpus, you're next.
Good evening, Ken Corpus, 1464 Grand Meadows Way. And if you don't want to talk about the U-Haul, I can talk about the ambulance stuff, but I don't want to do that either. So, Art, thanks for the sheet, but I think you missed out on a couple of points. I wrote up a comment and sent it in. I think you have it. If you don't, I'm here to put it into the record. So, I believe this 24-hour access facility violates the town code for a number of reasons. It's zoned light commercial, and as you know, I own a business in the town. I'm not against businesses coming in. I don't think it's your job to dictate what business can go where, other than if it's qualified for the zoning. This being called a storage unit, but it's going to have a vehicle rental, which is not approved for the district. I'm sorry, my phone's ready to go crazy. And so that's one. Number two is the zoning regulations for the district state a maximum height of 35 feet. The proposed height of this is over 4 stories, as already mentioned. So I think that's another one that would prevent this from going through as it's planned. Also, this states that no new commercial development shall employ architectural styling and detail that's consistent with the residential nature of the surrounding areas. And I don't think it's going to do that based on what I see. But all I have is a two-dimensional plan. So Zoning regulations for this district also restrict the square footage to 5,000 square feet, which was also mentioned in this letter. One building is 13,000 square feet. And I think there's multiple buildings, so you're way over that limit. And the fifth reason, the zoning regulations for this district limit the maximum lot coverage to 20%. And unfortunately, with the document that was online, I can't read the numbers and calculate it, but my eye seems to think that it's well over 20%. So to me, there's 5 things that this plan doesn't meet with the current zoning of Light Commercial District 2. I don't know how they're going to come back with a plan that meets all 5 of those criteria. So what you're going to end up doing is you're going to end up providing a special use permit, you're going to have a special variance, you're going to have to allow for oversize, and you're going to have to allow for a 4 height. When this could be built in a commercial district and meet all of the requirements necessary, except of course for 3 stories, which are not allowed anywhere in the town to go over 3 stories. And I don't think any building has yet gone over 3 stories. With this project would be better aligned to a commercial district, and where it says newer used motor vehicle, recreational vehicle, trailer, boat, farm, implement, and contractors, equipment sales, service, rental, or repair or rental. So, and if you look at the storage unit on Ridge Road that was built, it's 3 stories high, and it doesn't fit in that area either. It really doesn't. It's a very large building. I don't know how a 4-story building would fit into a residential area. So I realize, tonight is not a public hearing, but I think you have an opportunity to stop this project here and prevent it from going through more meetings, costing the town more time and energy, and the builders to, go through a lot of work to try to meet those 5 things that have to be changed in order for it to be built. All right? Thank you.
Thanks,
Hope you had a good Christmas and a good New Year. And I'm sure I'll see you again.
Thank you.
Well, guess what? Number 10 is the summative. Summative? I like it.
Summarizer, thank you, Wendy. Okay, great, I will try my best to keep to 5 minutes. So clearly, I think, by the attendance that we've got tonight and the attention that this has been receiving, this is obviously an emotional issue, and Tom, like you, I think the facts are important. So, I'm going to start just by summing up some of the facts tonight. Number 1, I think it was mentioned, this is a use which is in the zoning of a different zoning district. So that makes me uneasy. I find that problematic. It also obviously worries me, the tractor trailer feature that is very close to our house. Okay. Seeing the site plan, it gave a very different picture to me than what the project was initially presented to me as, which was, a self-storage facility that would be sort of minimal traffic, minimal impact, something which kind of fits in the zoning. So even though it's greater than 5,000 feet, it's generally still self-storage. If we look at the site plan, though, it seems, and this is hard for me because, like my father, I am close to Jim, and I want him to get a project that works. I want him to get money for his land. I am not opposed to the development of this land, even though I have to live right next to it. And that's why I haven't been out, front on this and fighting it. I've been in a really unusual position. Usually I'm like, the charger in my group. I've been the one trying to find silver linings and tell people, listen, this guy needs to get money for his land. If it wasn't this, it would be something else. But I'm torn morally because the more I look at the site plan and the more I look at the project, those features, it feels like we're trying to square a circle here. So yes, I would echo what Ken Corbis says. If there's a way that the developer can modify the project and modify the use so that it actually does fit into LC2, that would be ideal. To To come back to the special use permit issue, if you do look at chapter 269 of the town code, there are several aspects of the special use permit which specify when one should be used and when one shouldn't. And so that is another aspect of this project which makes it one that, were it anybody else but my neighbor Jim, I would be fighting it on principle, and I would be saying this is wrong. We shouldn't be using a special use permit to push this through when there are these aspects that make it outside of what the code is intending a special use permit to be for. I think that it's something that gives the town leverage on this issue. I think that this is something that should be modified by the developer so that it can go through and that it can fit the zoning, if that's even possible. I would hope it is. You know, the massiveness of that self-storage building, if it's just self-storage, fine. Are there any, you know, again, I don't know, I'm not a developer, but are there any ways that they can mitigate the project in terms of reducing the non-permeable surface area? Can they increase the bufferage on all sides? Can they ensure that there are specific features within that buffer area where the native vegetation will be in place? Can they make it more than 50 feet on all sides, not just my side? Can they make it so that the deer can get around to 4 Mile Creek? I've grown up next to this property. I have an emotional connection to it, but I also have an emotional connection to my neighbor. I was talking to my cousin earlier because I was helping him with the college application, and we talked about love thy neighbor as thyself. So it's difficult for me to even get up here and say these are aspects that I'm finding problematic, but I wouldn't be true to my own conscience if I didn't say that I don't believe that it's right for a special use permit to be approved with these existing characteristics that make it inappropriate. Those characteristics need to be first mitigated and modified before this goes through. And the town has that option. It doesn't have to go straight to the planning board at this stage. Thank you, guys.
Thank you,
And
Deb.
thank you for the succulent